Welcome to the Objective Recovery Podcast, where we talk about addiction and recovery very open-mindedly. Our purpose is to share information and stories about mental health in a holistic way that combines modern science, practical tools, and wisdom earned through life experience. If this sounds interesting, please subscribe to the channel and comment. We would love to hear what you think and are curious about. Today, my guest is Rudy Kallis. We will discuss recreational drug use and how he kicked a habit that tends to be one of the most difficult substance issues to beat for many people. Rudy works as an IT engineer, so we share a passion for computer science, technology, and AI. I've seen so many people in the IT field having problems with drugs, so I'm really keen to hear your story, Rudy.
Well, I've had an extensive drug usage problem. It started when I was very young, and I just have that nature about me where I found it difficult to not leave things unexplored. I like to explore things a lot. So I was obviously influenced by the social circle that I was in, just a handful of friends, and they, all started experimenting. First, it was things like marijuana, and after that, it escalated. Everything escalated. There was meth use, which came out, I think it was in the early 2000s. So that made its way over here to South Africa, and it became a huge thing. Lots of people were using it, including myself. And yeah, things progressed from there. I remember specifically an incident when I was 18 where I actually had a little bit of, I couldn't explain what it was that I was feeling. And it was making, I just knew it's making me anxious. But my dad, he came to me and he told me to take one of these little pills. And I took one of the, it was a tranquilizer. I think it was Ativan. Yeah. So you put that one under your tongue, and I remember I was feeling just great after that. Like there was no anxiousness. All of those things were gone. And since that day, since I was 18, I've always looked for benzodiazepine tranquilizers. And I do know that specifically with benzos, people have a hard time getting off it. But I did actually manage to get off benzodiazepines. And yeah, I just thought I'd share with you what my experience has been.
I know that it's extremely difficult. We actually have clients, so it's not the most common. It's very far from the most common,
Yes.
commonly, problematic drug. But
Yeah.
many people actually have very similar stories. So I believe
Yes.
that you had problems with anxiety, probably also when you were
Yes.
younger. Is that true? Because that tends to be the case.
Yeah.
And then, did you know at the beginning when your dad offered it to you that did you know what it was? That it was like a
No,
prescription drug? It
I,
was just,
I
or
had
you
no
just
idea.
accepted it?
Yeah, I just accepted it. Yeah, without questioning too much. I just knew that it was doing whatever I needed it to do, which was to not feel anxious. But then,
Yeah.
of course, as that feeling came back, I went ahead and just kept on medicating and medicating. So that became the usual thing, and it went on for years and years and years. It's only now
Okay.
how long? Yeah, it's only a few years that I've been off it.
So how long had you been using the benzos then?
Wow, more than 30 years, almost 40 years. Yeah.
Did you take them every day or
Yes,
when
every
you
day.
specifically thought,
As I was building up tolerance as well, tolerance levels were kicking in, so I would have to take 2 or 3, and then it became 4, and then it became 5. It
Yeah.
wasn't really doing what it was supposed to do anymore, like in the beginning. Much like with any other drug that you become desensitized to, you needed to take more in order to feel the same way, which is less anxiety. But then I knew I had a problem, and I was looking for help, and that's when I realized there's hardly any resources available to help you to
Yeah.
get off benzodiazepines safely.
Did you
Uh,
get it prescribed by a doctor or you just
I
bought it
did.
on?
No, I
Okay.
did.
Did the doctor know about your problem?
They
What
they
was
didn't
that?
know about my drug abuse. They didn't know that
Okay.
I was, that way inclined. So they just gave me a prescription for tranquilizers and said, okay, well, there you
Mm.
go. Just keep taking those and you'll be okay. There was one situation that I was in where they actually tried to help me get off the benzos. And I went into an outpatient program at Stockholm Hospital, which is right near us. And what would happen was students would come to that facility and they would practice on the outpatients, which would be me in this case. There would be a different face every time I came back. So every time I would see someone new and would have to go through the same things, like over and over. And they eventually presented me with a script, probably not knowing about my addictive nature or addictive personality. They gave me a script for, I think it was Zopax, that would last me for up to 6 months. And the pharmacy gave me all that stock in one go, like with one prescription. And so, yeah, I just kept taking the medication as I knew that this is something that I needed. But then I found out, no, these drugs are only supposed to be used when and if prescribed. And then I found out that, I was looking for resources, like I said, to get off it and to stop taking it. I couldn't find anything. But I will be sharing, what I did find eventually after
Yeah.
looking everywhere. And that's including psychiatrists as well.
So you never spoke with your doctor, the prescribing, professionals, physician, about this issue because it sounds like you were aware, you were looking for a solution to get off, but you didn't tell the
Yeah,
doctor.
I was desperate to find one, but I just couldn't. So I was searching for benzodiazepines and I was searching for benzos everywhere. And I came across the website that I shared with you, which is
Yeah.
benzo.org.co.uk. That
Yeah,
website
we will
saved my
link it in the
life.
description. Thank you for that. Really good
Yeah,
resource.
that website literally saved my life. It's got withdrawal schedules for each and every benzodiazepine that ever existed and that exists today. There are tapering off schedules that help you safely get off it. And in doing so, I was able to just stay off it completely. But it took months and months and months because depending on what your usage rate is, how much you're using, you would need longer to taper off it. It's always a case of don't go to cold turkey because if you stop cold turkey,
Yeah.
you're probably going to end up using again because it's too much of a
Yeah,
job.
also can be very
Yeah.
dangerous. It's one of
Yes.
there are not so many drugs that can
Mm.
actually lead to death, sudden
Yes. Yeah.
stopping a withdrawal, but alcohol
Yes.
is one and the benzos are the other one that
Yeah.
they are very similar in the way they act on the brain, actually the
Yeah.
pathways, so they can induce seizures and all kinds of really weird symptoms. So I know very well.
Yeah.
It's not only hard, but it's very dangerous as well to
Yes.
stop.
It is. Yeah, I would say it's probably one of the most dangerous drugs because I don't think when people start using them, I don't think they know that it can be as addictive as it was. That
Yeah.
your body actually, after a while, it starts to look for the substance. It no longer regulates, your normal day-to-day moods. It, uh, and if you give in to that stress, if you let the stress take over, you're going to need a quick fix. And if you knew about tranquilizer before, you're probably going to seek it out again, knowing that it does do the job.
While you were using the benzos for years, did you still use other drugs occasionally,
Yes,
or you just
recreational,
stopped?
Yeah, even while I was on that. So my recreational drug use would be everything.
Okay.
There's nothing that I didn't try except for heroin. That's the only thing that I did not try. Everything else, including cocaine, yes, I've done it, been there, ecstasy, all of the party drugs that you can think of. And it was also continuous use over years. Um, but so I could stop all of that. I could stop all the recreational drugs, not a problem, including the methamphetamine. I could get off it and I could stop, not a problem. But the only one that I couldn't stop was the benzodiazepines, because that
Okay.
went on for most of my life. Yeah, it was my go-to, knowing that it will get this feeling away from me as quickly as possible,
Yeah.
even if I have to take a few of them or a handful. I
Yeah.
wasn't even weighing out the risks associated with regards to side effects. Uh, I didn't even read the side effects, to be honest.
Yeah. Did it cause any problems in your life, your benzodiazepine use?
When I was without the benzodiazepine, I found that when I entered social gatherings or social circumstances where you need to be social, and I'm an extrovert, that wasn't happening because the stress was taking over, and I would feel jittery and things like that in social gatherings. So even there, me being a natural extrovert, I could notice that I'm not I'm not the same person. It was changing who I
Okay.
was, and yeah, I didn't like that at all.
I find it super interesting that for all those years, you
Mm.
had prescribed because many people eventually start buying it from the street. So you didn't do that,
Yeah,
but
I
the doctor, for some reason, the doctor
yes,
didn't know about it, and this is it's a very very good example to highlight the problem that is still
yeah,
a problem that many doctors and pharmacists don't
yeah,
take this seriously. And now
yes,
they take it more seriously with opioids because, the opioid
yeah,
epidemic. But something like
yeah.
this is still
It's
a
still
bit
rampant,
off.
I would think, because I think most people think that it's normal, that it's just a normal day-to-day thing. It's like, oh, okay, fine, I took my little pill, and now I'll be okay for the rest of the day. But eventually, as they continue using, they will also see that the effects will wear off quicker. You would need one of those pills a lot sooner because the half life tends to decrease gradually as well. And the half-life is basically what keeps the substance active in your bloodstream. The half-life dissipates after some time that your body has worked up a resistance to it.
So you were taking a long-lasting form, a long-lasting.
It was alprazolam. Yeah,
Okay.
alprazolam would be the scientific name, but that would be the one that I was using most.
And then when you discovered that tapering schedule and that method, so just tell us a bit about how that worked, what exactly that involves, because I think many people will be very interested in that.
Okay, so yeah, like I said, I was searching for benzodiazepines. I was searching for benzos. I was using all the keywords, and in doing so, I accidentally stumbled upon benzo.org.co.uk. And there, when I read it,
Okay.
I realized, wow, there are actual schedules, tapering off schedules that can get you off of any benzodiazepine, no matter what the brand is. There are schedules on there to get off everything. Yeah, then I had a decision to make. Now that I knew it's possible, I said to myself, okay, I need to just do it. I need to just get down and do it. So I created an Excel spreadsheet. And using the spreadsheet, I was able to keep track of exactly how much I should be taking, how much I should be tapering off from, and also in introducing a new benzodiazepine, which was Valium. So in order to get off the
Okay.
very heavy ones, you have to take one that's a little less so, which is diazepam. So diazepam is Valium,
Yeah.
and so you bring in more
Yeah.
Valium, and it all depends on your usage. So you can use the site as is, as it is there, and there will be a schedule for you. You can always start out using the baselines and then just change it up depending on your your own usage, I guess. Yeah.
Just to clarify, you were originally on a long-lasting benzo, and then part of that
Yes,
schedule, tapering schedule, was that switching to a more short-lasting form
correct. So
formula,
yeah,
and then tapering that. Okay.
yes, correct. So in using the Valium, they have a shorter half-life, so they're not in your system as long. With alprazolam, it's a little bit different. It stays in your system for longer, and it's a lot stronger. So introducing the Valium, first of all, things you would start tapering off from the daytime. So there'd be 3 times a day that you take it: in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evenings. I was doing all 3 times of the day. So obviously, I first had to tackle the daytime. So I tapered off through the day by introducing more Valium and then getting rid of the alprazolam gradually, like by, I think it was, we even did like zero point 0.1 of a milligram. Just break it like a, because I had to use a pill cutter, and I actually had to cut the pills into smaller segments so that I could get those lower dosages. Because the other thing I found out was that when you go to the pharmacy, you don't get Valium in 1 milligrams, for example. You just don't find the azepam 1 milligram. It's because they don't make it. You have to create your own. So you have to buy the twos and then break the twos into ones. And then even so, when you go further, you have to break the ones into 0.5s and then into 0.25s. So that was a learning curve. It was something that I didn't find too hard to do because you can use a pill cutter and chop the pills up. So yeah, it took long. Like I said, for the schedule would work in periods of 2 weeks. So one schedule would be a 2-week period, and you would only do what's in the 2-week period. So you only taper off during the afternoon, and everything else remains the same. And then after 2 weeks, you would taper off something else in the evening, for example. So you would be tapering off the afternoon and the evening, and also depending on how much milligram you're going to decrease. And that would go on. And then after another couple of weeks, you would have to get rid of in the morning. So you would have your morning schedules. It's just, there are so many things that I learned from this, and it's just that the baseline site benzo.org.co.uk was the only source of information that I could find on the internet that I could use to get off the benzos. Yeah.
Did your doctor know at that time that you were
Yes.
tapering?
Yeah, we're working hand in hand. However, I still controlled the amount that I decreased. You're getting all these sensations back that you weren't really feeling before, because you were numbing it with the tranquilizers. So now you don't
Yeah,
have the numbing device. All those
yeah.
feelings just rushed back in a very quick span of time, and that is actually what caused one to just keep using the tablet, because it was a never-ending cycle.
Yeah.
You would take it, you will feel relief, but as soon as you stop taking it, then all the anxiety would come back.
So how did you deal with those feelings?
Oh, yes, those feelings. There were other changes I had to make as well. So there were changes like me going cycling. Uh, I went cycling very often. I'm not doing it as
Oh,
often as I should right now, but that was a big thing. I wasn't doing any exercise, and so cycling
yeah.
helped a lot, especially with the program, and especially to get the anxiety levels down. Um, that was probably, I think it was 50-50 between tapering off the medication and getting physical.
It's definitely one of the most helpful things to help anxiety. I discovered it myself for my own
Okay.
anxiety, and when I had
Yeah.
I had an anxiety triggered even further by in my case it was alcohol use, and that was
Okay.
it's part early recovery that definitely
Yes.
exercise still helps me the most because
Oh,
some of
okay.
us
Yeah.
are anxiety is something that many people are biologically predisposed to. I don't know if
Yeah.
you can see, if you know in your family, sometimes people can
Oh,
see. I can definitely see in my family lineages that other
okay.
family members, relatives had anxiety as well, different forms. So that's a good
Okay.
indication that you may have a biological predisposition. And if you have that,
Yes.
it's kind of a lifelong journey
Mm.
to figure out how to deal with it
Correct. Yes.
constructively. Then, did you actually have like a linear scheduling, tapering down, 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 and then you stopped, or
Yes.
there were also setbacks when you
There
would
was.
go?
I could get to a certain amount. I could get down to. I think it was on like 1 milligram a day or something like that. And then I got to zero point 0.5, and I couldn't go lower than zero point 0.5. So what I had to do then was I called a psychiatrist um, to assist me to get off it, and then I told her she must handle that part because I can't. 'Cause I tried on my own, it didn't work, and then I had to get professional help, and the psychiatrist helped me to get off the last zero point 0.5 that I was still using.
Did you do a therapy as well or anything, like a
Yeah,
counselor?
there was some psychotherapy, but it was more to get a basis of what my active life is like. And then we found out that there's not much happening in the active part of my life, and
Mm.
we had to get that into place, and that actually helped with the weaning off as well.
This
Mhm.
reminds me a bit of something else that some people like to use, which is not psychotherapy, but occupational therapy.
Oh
I don't know.
yes,
When that's exactly when it's not only just analyzing the mind and,
yeah,
mental change mentally,
yeah,
but also introducing new activities and basically
yes,
change the lifestyle.
yes,
So,
100%. Yeah,
yeah,
they,
so yeah.
I would say that was one of the biggest helps. I didn't know
Okay,
it would
okay.
have the I didn't know how huge the positive effect would be, but yes, it had a very helpful effect.
I definitely see quite a lot of people who work in the IT field.
Yeah,
Were you working in IT during that time as well?
yes, I was
Yeah.
in IT. It was an all-consuming, time-consuming job, including working on weekends as well
Mhm.
to do things that you couldn't do during the week. So yes, I had a very stressful lifestyle with regards to work. That was definitely adding to my problem.
And I guess if you are an extrovert, naturally, that's also IT is quite a loner job, right?
So it would probably have been easier to get rid of that line of work, I guess. I don't have anything else that I'm so passionate about. So
Okay,
for
yeah.
me, yeah, for me, it wasn't really a choice to get rid of IT. In some people's cases, it would be. It would probably be the easiest thing to get rid of it. I didn't have any other fallback at the time.
Some people I know in that field are probably a bit different from you because there are also many
Okay.
people who are drawn to that field because they are introverted. And
Okay.
they choose they practice a form of IT, work from home,
Yes.
and when they can
Oh
just
yeah,
be with
yeah,
the
yeah.
computer and programming, they don't need to communicate. And then
Correct.
many of those people actually use all kinds of drugs to escape to enrich their life because it's a very
Yes.
lonely and very very simple
Yeah.
life and the
Yes.
drugs.
I can see how that
Yeah,
would work because the developers, yeah, most of the time is coding. So it's
yeah.
just you and the PC. Yeah. There are some scenarios in my current line of work where the same can apply, but it's not as much of a it doesn't make as much of a difference as it would to developers. Yeah. Because obviously they're just looking at code and code all day and
Yeah. Did anyone know about your benzo problem at work or your friends or
no,
anything?
no,
No, you kept it to
no one knew.
yourself.
Yeah, I kept it
Yeah.
totally separate. Um, yeah, nobody found out about it. I don't know how I managed to hide it, I guess. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
So apart from the long taking it a long time to taper,
Mhm.
did you have any other challenges with the solution apart from the
Uh,
feelings, dealing with the feelings and that it took a long time?
Apart from that, not really. It was such a rigid thing that I was only concentrating on getting off the benzos because I didn't want it to be a life sentence, which at the time I felt
Yeah.
like it was a life sentence because I felt like I can't leave this country, I can't go anywhere else because where am I going to get the drugs? You know, where am I going to get another benzo? And
Yeah.
only after I was off benzos did I realize, oh my word, I can go anywhere I want now because I no longer need benzodiazepines. So I can travel the world, if I want.
And so how do you deal with your anxiety? Is exercise enough for you to keep it at bay, or you do other
Yes,
things?
it is actually, and I've also changed the way I work. I also don't work the extra long hours anymore.
Okay.
I just couldn't deal with that, so I just don't work it.
Mhm.
No weekends and nothing
Yeah.
after 4 p.m.
In the US where I live, that's a culture where, people just work, work, work.
Yes,
And
I,
that kind
no
of
rest.
lifestyle it's very much encouraged, and it's so
Yeah,
ingrained in society and the culture that I refuse
yes,
to do that myself because I'm not originally from here, so I never really,
yeah,
got into that. Although there were periods, but
mm,
it's not. We need balance in life, right? So
yes,
we need other to do
yes.
other things. So it's very important
That's what was
especially
missing.
if you're
Yeah,
a social person, and
yes.
you do you still actually deal with anxiety? Do you still have uncomfortable
Just the
feelings?
normal amounts. It's what I would think is just normal. So I guess yeah, everybody gets
Mm.
a little bit of anxiety before they go and speak to like I don't know 1,000 people or whatever. So that just the normal levels of I still feel those things, but as it's not as much as I was dealing with before, and I just had to find my way with regards to how I was managing my time and how I was managing my life because I was giving too much of myself to the work and I was not taking enough time for myself.
That's
That's
great that it's basically a relatively simple solution. The tapering was hard to achieve, but the other
yeah,
lifestyle changes are relatively simple. It's also great that you
yes,
didn't struggle a lot to implement them because that's
yeah,
where many people just are unable to stop and
yeah,
change because they always go back. I definitely was a
yes,
chronic relapser with my problems, so for me
yeah.
it was not as easy as that.
I get
But
it. Yeah.
so it definitely sounds like your life has changed and you changed
Yes,
mentally and even mindset, how
definitely.
you deal with it.
I'm a lot more in tune now with uh, the feelings that I can deal with, and or actually how to deal with my feelings. Let's just say that I know how to deal with my feelings better now than before. Because before it was just well, there's a little tablet that can fix it. Now it's more like okay, so how does this make me feel, and why is it making me feel that way? So I'd rather go and see why is it making me feel like that, and then I usually find the root cause of why I'm feeling that way.
So you can leverage your curiosity. You mentioned in the beginning that you started
Mhm.
experimenting recreationally with drugs because you
Yes.
were curious and it was hard to say no to
Yeah.
interesting
Yeah.
experiences. So now it sounds like you use your natural curiosity to basically do introspection in the right way
Yes.
and to
Yeah.
incorporate new things in your lives. That's
Yes.
very
These
good.
are things that were taught, that I had to learn rather. Not, it wasn't taught, I had to learn it. Yeah.
And do you think that what you did with your solution uh, was very personal for you, or do you think that that's a method that others could easily use, probably?
I certainly think it's a method that others can use. If I could use benzo.co.uk to get the first schedule, um, now there's all these schedules on there people can use. But the decision to start, that would be the hardest part. The decision to start to get
Yeah.
off it. If they don't see the reason why they need to get off it, then it won't be possible. If they know, okay, I really want to get off this and I make a concerted effort to get off it, then yes, it will work for anyone, just like the professor intended. Yeah.
Do you know anyone else who had a benzo problem and then they used similar method?
My dad has a benzo
Oh,
problem and he's still
okay.
on it. He's still on it.
Does he know about your recovery
He knows,
stuff?
just not
Okay.
interested.
Not
He
interested,
knows,
yeah.
not for himself. Yeah.
I find it so interesting because it sounds like many people experience really severe consequences due to their drug use. And it sounds like with
Mm.
benzos, but for benzo users, maybe those consequences are not as bad as for example, someone who is drinking very heavily or using opioids and things like
Yeah.
that. Maybe that's why people stay on it. Nothing really, really, really bad going
Oh
on
yeah.
that basically forces people.
Yeah, I think it's socially it's accepted because it's been made available legally by the medical profession. However, in my opinion, I think it should be used as little as possible. Um, it's not something that people should get prescribed for an ongoing period of time.
Many people, many doctors now have that view, and they are careful not only with opioids but benzos as well. But still, it
Yeah.
sounds like we definitely need improvement in that field and education. Can be overdose just like opioids. That's also
Yes, of
possible. And
course.
if people develop tolerance and they keep taking more and more, and they suddenly take a high dose,
Yes, and
overdoses
that's how they
often
OD.
happen when people try to quit, they stay quit for a
Yeah.
while, and then the tolerance drops a bit, and then
Yes.
they relapse, they go back and take a high
They
dose.
think they can still use exactly the same one as
Yeah.
before, and that's unfortunate.
If you think back
Mhm.
to the beginning, do you think that your problem, benzo problem, could have been prevented in any way?
Yes, it could certainly have been prevented. For example, the that tablet that my dad gave me, that is how I came to know about benzos. And tranquilizer, I think the tranquilizer should have been under stricter control. It should not have been handed out all willy-nilly because it actually affected my entire life. And I didn't know that it was actually that was, affecting my entire life. People should definitely think about, yeah, especially even if doctors give them the pill. Um, but yeah, it wasn't a doctor who gave my first one. It was my dad. So yeah, that's insinuating circumstances, I guess.
So if you imagine that it was not available from a prescription, do you think that you would have sought it out from illicit
Yes, y-
sources?
yes. Unfortunately, because I know people who own pharmacies, and so if I wanted, I could actually call someone right now who owns the pharmacy that's
Mm.
near me, and I could get my hands on that. Yes, it was very easy to get my hands on it by knowing the owner of the pharmacy. I guess even that was in some way planned, somewhere in my mind. I planned to get to know the pharmacy owner.
That's also, thank you for mentioning that. It's also a very important point because people really need to think that there are so many levels, so many
Yeah.
sources where, it's so easy to get drugs even from
Yes.
legal
Yeah. Legal.
sources,
Yeah.
but not on the black market, what I mean
Yeah.
from a pharmacy. And it's
Yes.
very important to think because it definitely your story demonstrates that doctors don't always think for the patient,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yes.
they did not, yours did
They
not
didn't know my
consider that.
background. Yeah. My addictive background.
Yeah,
But the sad
so
thing was
that's
that
very
it was
sad.
it was something that I had to do on my own. There wasn't someone to direct me. There wasn't someone to say, okay, well, you need to go here or do this. It was only after I did my own research that I found a way out.
Yeah. And in general, are you now satisfied and happy with your life,
I live a
level
much better
level?
lifestyle now
Yeah.
than when I was on benzodiazepines, for certain. And I also, yeah, I like the introspection part of it. You know, the way I can actually tell what feelings are causing certain reactions in my body. Um, that was an awesome lesson.
That's also interesting, the introspection, because that also depends on the person. That the introspection, a certain level, is always good, but some
Yeah.
people are prone to overdoing it. So, for example, myself. So I am more an introvert, and I tend to,
Yes.
speculate a lot. And then actually,
Yes.
when I had my substance problem, a lot
Mm.
of my life was just thinking, and even in all of my interaction with people
Mm.
were just with analytical, hyper analytical, like
Yeah.
overthinking everything. So, for
Yes.
example, in my case, when I went to psychotherapy, where the goal was to analyze more, that was very
Yes.
counterproductive for me, someone like me,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
adding to that even more. But I
Yes.
think it's just an example that,
Yes.
we have to find our own ways and
Yeah.
think critically that is it really working? Is
Yes.
it?
No, this whole journey it's a lifelong journey. although I'm only 47 years old, so I still have the rest of my life to live benzo
Yeah,
free.
yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
It's a very positive mindset. Are
Yes.
you open to, can people get in touch with you or, if they have
Yes, for sure.
questions?
Okay, via email, they can find me at Rudy, R-U-D-Y, dot Kallis, Kallis, at gmail.com. It's probably going to be the easiest way for people to get in touch with me.
Okay, we will put that in the description as well. So thank you.
Yes, for
So
sure. I'll
thanks,
put it in there.
thank you for being so generous because I think this is an excellent resource. So thank you again so much, and I'm
Thank you.
so glad to hear that you are happy now, and
Yes.
it's you find your solutions and everything was relatively simple for you. So
Yeah.
I wish you all the best, and I'm also very happy that you didn't have problems with didn't have to give up your job and your passions
Yes,
over
I'm
the
very
use of
fortunate in that regard.
recovery.